Canadian-born researcher sat at the injector console. He was 45, tall, and clean-shaven. His eyes were blue, and his crew-cut hair so dark brown that one could get away with calling it black, except at the temples, where about half of it had turned gray. Particle physicists weren't known for their sartorial splendor, and Lloyd had until recently been no exception. But he'd agreed a few months ago to donate his entire wardrobe to the Geneva chapter of the Salvation Army and let his fiancée pick out all new things for him. Truth be told, the clothes were a little flashy for his taste, but he had to admit that he'd never looked so sharp. Today, he was wearing a beige dress shirt, a coral-colored jacket, brown pants with exterior pouches instead of interior pockets, and, in a nod to fashion tradition, black Italian leather shoes. Lloyd had also adopted a couple of universal status symbols that also happened to be bits of local color. A Mont Blanc fountain pen, which he kept clipped to his jacket's inside pocket, and a gold Swiss analog watch. Seated on his right, in front of the detector console, was the master of the makeover herself, his fiancée, engineer Michiko Komura. 10 years Lloyd's junior at 35, Michiko had a small, upturned nose and lustrous black hair that she had styled in the currently popular pageboy cut. Standing behind her was Theo Prokopides, Lloyd's research partner. At 27, Theo was 18 years younger than Lloyd. More than one wag had compared the conservative middle-aged Lloyd and his fiery Greek colleague to the team of Crick and Watson. Theo had curly, thick, dark hair, gray eyes, and a prominent jutting jaw. He almost always wore red denim jeans. Lloyd didn't like them, but no one under 30 wore blue jeans anymore, and one of an endless string of T-shirts depicting cartoon characters from all over the world. Today he had on the venerable Tweety Bird. A dozen other scientists and engineers were positioned at the remaining consoles. Moving up the cube. Except for the gentle hum of air conditioning and the soft whir of equipment fans, the control room was absolutely silent. Everyone was nervous and tense after a long day of preparing for this experiment. Lloyd looked around the room, then took a deep breath. His pulse was racing, and he could feel butterflies gyrating in his stomach. The clock on the wall was analog. The one on his console, digital. They were both rapidly approaching 1700, what Lloyd, even after 2 years in Europe, still thought of as 5 p.m. Lloyd was director of the collaborative group of almost 1,000 physicists using the ALICE, a Large Ion Collider Experiment detector. He and Theo had spent 2 years designing today's particle collision. 2 years to do work that could have taken 2 lifetimes. They were attempting to recreate energy levels that hadn't existed since a nanosecond after the Big Bang, when the universe's temperature was 10 quadrillion degrees. In the process, they hoped to detect the holy grail of high-energy physics, the long-sought-after Higgs boson, the particle whose interactions endowed other particles with mass. If their experiment worked, the Higgs and the Nobel that would likely be awarded to its discoverers should be theirs. The whole experiment was automated and precisely timed. There was no great knife switch to pull down, no trigger hidden under a spring-loaded cover to push. Yes, Lloyd had designed and Theo had coded the core modules of the program for this experiment, but everything was now under the control of a computer. When the digital clock reached 16:59:55, Lloyd started counting down out loud with it. 5. He looked at Michiko. 4. She smiled back encouragingly. God, how he loved her. 3. He shifted his gaze to young Theo, the Wunderkind, the kind of youthful star Lloyd had hoped to have been himself, but never was. 2. Theo, ever cocky, gave him a thumbs-up sign. 1. Please, God, thought Lloyd. Please. 0. And then, suddenly, everything was different. There was an immediate